Hey everybody, I've been wanting to make a video, and now I really want to make a video, so I'm doing it. The name of this video is Many Hats, One Mind, and there's a lot of catalysts that have been at work in my life that would cause me to want to make this video. So I saw Brother Keith did a interview, so to speak. It was really long and good with Crypto Night. They talked about a lot of different things. One of the things they highlighted, or Brother Keith really highlighted, was a word about concerning a famine. And he saw a major evangelical personality, a person with a large ministry. He said this person had even like a radio ministry online, a massive following. And he said this individual, and I don't know who it was, told the listeners that a famine was really not in our future. That, and if it was just be a small food shortage. So I'm going to say this. I asked the Lord Jesus Christ for the gift of prophecy, and I want to say it was the year 2011. It might have been the end of 2012. I asked him for the gift of prophecy based upon God's Word. I don't know if I had the Bible with me. It was in Corinthians. Paul says to strive eagerly for the spiritual gifts. So I said, Lord, I want that. You know, I want this. I want the gift of prophecy. That night, God gave me a terrifying dream and vision, and it was from the Lord. In a nutshell, He showed me there was going to be a blackout, and the setting was in my hometown. It was no electricity. The first thing I noticed was there's no lights. It is dark. It is very dark. There's absolutely no electricity. The second thing I noticed, I looked up, the only light was the stars, and they were clear as a bell. They were, you know, the only thing you could look to in that vision or dream. And then as I noticed the only light is the stars, I got overcome by a wave of darkness. It would have been like the thickest fog that you've ever experienced. The Bible describes the plague of darkness in Egypt, and the Lord told Moses, it's going to be so dark, you're going to feel it. It's going to be thicken. The thickness of the darkness is you're going to feel it physically. That is how this was. The darkness rolled over me. I could feel it. It was heavier than a mist. It was a physical substance, the darkness was, and it overwhelmed me. And I couldn't see. I couldn't see anything. And it's kind of like this in the dream. Jesus, you know, Jesus, Jesus. I cried out to Jesus 3 times, and a spirit spoke to me. I'll use this. This is pretty graphic. I got these pliers. These bishop pliers. The spirit spoke, and when it spoke, just like the darkness was physical, the voice was physical, and it penetrated into my ear. And just like I can feel this, I could feel the voice penetrate into my ear. It was like one of those things that the doctor uses and sticks it in your ear, and he's looking. I felt the voice penetrate my ear canal. And it said, I'm and I woke up in a full body sweat. Full body sweat. I've had, well, praise the Lord, I haven't been sick. I did get the biological virus, whatever. I did get sick for a week with COVID. Before that, I hadn't been sick in a decade. And that's the grace of God. Because I don't live healthy enough to even say it could be my habits. This is the grace of God. I don't get sick. This is a blessing for some reason. The Lord's given me this health. And you know when you're sick and you're laying in bed and you have a fever and you wake up in the middle of the night and your sheets are drenched. This is how I woke up from this dream, and the vision was in the dream. I call the darkness a vision because I couldn't see. There was no vision. It was a vision of no vision and of an audible vision, a voice, someone in desperate need. I woke up in a full body sweat. And this vision changed my life forever. When I heard people talking about prosperity was in store for America, just say 3 years ago, I wouldn't hear it. I wouldn't hear it. I said, no, I'll tell you what's in store for America. Rude awakening. I could go in on so many levels on how hard it is to grow food, how we throw food away, how we withhold food and say things. Just, we store up judgment for ourselves with what comes out of our mouths. When I would hear what people would say about other people, what white people would say about black people, what black people would say about white people, so on and so. I got jumped at church one time by this Mexican dude. He's like, let's jump this white boy. You know, I'll just throw it out there. Racism is it goes on black in Africa. It goes on Asian in the Himalayas. There is racism where people of the same color, they might be one shade off. It's like this rice, right? Well, these people are tall and skinny, and we're short and fat, but we're the same color, but we hate each other. It doesn't have to be, you know, I'm black, you're white. I hate you. You know, I'm just saying, the devil done stirred up more people and got a hold of their tongues to where when they speak, they are only storing up wrath for themselves. This is a word for poor people, rich people, rich people. I worked for everything I got. The poor people are blaming the rich people. They're being lazy in some instances, blaming the man, blaming the rich. It's all rigged. No. You do what God commands you to do and see what happens. So instead of using the Word of God, I need my Bible, to navigate their life, they have plugged into this world system where you have demonic spirits. And when you start operating in that, the wrath of God will come upon you when you start to judge others harshly. When you speak a word against your brother and you don't have a repentant heart, when you can't check yourself and you think you're justified in your assessment. This goes on in America. There are many unclean spirits that will latch on, attach themselves to you. You may come into agreement, and these things they're going to bring about destruction. Even famine. These things will bring about famine. I hear people talk about this famine is going to be engineered by men. Maybe. It doesn't matter. It's just like the Ripple case. Is Ripple going to win the lawsuit? Are they not going to win the lawsuit? Is it going to get overturned? What's the time? It doesn't matter. If God told you to invest in XRP and to hold it, then, like Brother Keith said, you're not moved. You have one mind. So here's my hat. You know, I can wear many hats. Well, my head's big. Actually, my head's so big, I can't wear some hats. But I can sit here and wear many hats and be of one mind. This may be silly. I can wear many hats and be of one mind. I can be a brother. I can be a son. I can be a farmer. I can be a beekeeper. I can invest in crypto. I can do all things through Christ who empowers me, and be of a sound mind, of a single mind, and know that what God showed me is as certain as anything that could ever be revealed. So, with all that being said, when people told me this was going to be God's wealth transfer and prosperity, I tested this thing. My first response was crypto, that's going to get vaporized. There's going to be a blackout. It's going to get vaporized. That was my first response. Maybe it will all get vaporized. Maybe it will all get deleted. Maybe there will be a master hack in the future that corrupts all files, and you got to go back to doing it like Jesus' day. Maybe. Only God knows. And I'll tell you what, you can pray for whatever you want to. There's a reason why God revealed this famine. And there's a reason why he revealed to invest in certain things. Land, precious metals, digital assets. There's a reason. Now, if I can stick to the subject, there's so many things I'd like to say, but I hope my illustration, I only care about crypto because God showed it to me. Can I emphasize that to myself enough? I only care about crypto at all because God revealed it to me. I only care about this famine because God revealed it to me. I try to make other people care about it. They don't care. I have been, for 12 years, approximately 12 years, I've been living with this. Trying to sound the alarm. You've got preppers, and they're a small group, and they're not all believers. They say, if someone comes knocking on my door, I'm shooting them. It's preppers. They're like, I'm not sharing anything with anyone. The fear of God in me was, I've got to store up food for everybody I know. They're not doing anything. It's the same with crypto. I feel like I'm supposed to invest for others because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. And I know, and I have this conviction, this single-minded conviction, and they have no conviction, so I feel a responsibility for others to invest for them. Same way with food storage. So I'm going to go down, even though I use these as props for people groups, I want to show y'all something. These are some sort of beans that Hispanic people eat. I can't remember the name of them. They're yellow. This thing weighs, I don't know, this is at least, I want to say it's got to be 5 pounds of beans or more. 5 pounds of beans. It's vacuum sealed. So I can take this off, turn it upside down. It's vacuum sealed. The Bible says there's a framework, there's a way of thinking that this could be a week's pay. The Bible says there will be a day when a day's wages is a certain amount of food. I started thinking like that. when this famine was revealed, I heard someone who could not, barely speak. They could barely speak. And they were crying out, and they were hungry. And so I thought, beans, these are nutritious. Do you know? Well, I'm going to keep going. These are a type of lentil. Some kind of dal, they call it dal. D-A-A-L or something. They cook really fast, and they're good. They're great. You can mash them up like mashed potatoes. You can make soup with them. You can mash them and spread them like refried beans. But these things, they cook fast. These cost about $1.50 a pound right now. Dang it, I left it. These are baby lima beans. Okay. I don't love lima beans. I don't remember the last time I ate a lima bean. But lima beans are cheap. They store for a long time. Lima beans. These are red lentils. They're also, I guess, more common in India. India has a very large population of people, and I think lentils, for many people in India, this is a staple crop. It's like rice. Lentils, Americans, for the most part, this is not on the menu at most places. Red lentils, they're good. If you know how to cook them, they're really, really good. These are split peas. Eat your peas. Those split peas are about $1 a pound right now. If you go to your normal grocery store, where I'm from, in the South, split peas, dried, $1 a pound. Pinto beans. Everybody can get down on some pinto beans. It's kind of like, Forrest Gump with the shrimp, Bubba. How many different ways there is to cook shrimp? Beans. There's a lot of ways to cook beans. Any kind of way to flavor it, spice it. These are a larger type of a lentil. These are, I think, Goya brand. Or H-E-B also has a store brand, but they cook fast. My uncle, he married a Hispanic woman. She's from Mexico. She barely even speaks English. She introduced these into their household diet. And my Uncle Bobby said, man, those lentils, those are good. It's something we don't think about. Typically, they use less time and resources to cook and have probably more nutrition than the pinto beans. We got the black beans. We got the red kidney beans. I got another thing of split peas. So why am I bringing this up? I've wanted to make a video about the revelation of the famine. I can talk about it all day. This video, I could make it 10 hours long straight. I could tell you that right now, food is cheap. Well, no, it's not. My food bill's going. Eggs are $7 a dozen. Bread in New York is $5. It's cheap. Brother Lawrence, don't speak like that. It's so cheap. We're going to call this the Mr. Michael Challenge. Go plant some baby lima beans and harvest them and fill up a jar. And then tell me that if I sold this to you for $5, you want to go grow these, you're going to go plant the seeds, you're going to prepare the soil, you're going to make sure the rabbits don't come and eat it, you're going to make sure your dog doesn't dig a hole and decide to just trample it, you're going to decide the deer don't come in and eat it, or the cutter ants don't cut the stalks, or the gophers don't come under the ground, Or the crows don't fly down from the sky and pluck the juicy baby underdeveloped pea pods. Then you're going to make sure that the caterpillars don't come and eat the leaves. Well, I want it to be organic, so you're not going to use pesticides. And then you get some bug that you've never even heard of, and you get on Google like, what is this thing? He's eating all my plants. Or you get an armadillo that comes through there and starts rooting around. And then maybe you get a frost, and it freezes the plants. They come up, and you're like, oh, and then a frost comes through and freezes your plants and kills them. Or you get a flood. You get there's a tropical storm. Hey, it's El Nino. We got 10 inches of rain. My whole garden's underwater. I didn't know it flooded right there. The real estate agent didn't tell me this flooded. Or maybe they did, but I wasn't listening. Sorry. Or maybe there's a wind, a microburst. I've seen this. Or a tornado that wipes out your crop. Or a hailstorm. The hailstorm comes down and shreds your plants. The ice is flying out. There's ice flying out of the sky, and it's cutting the leaves of your plants. And it's knocking the flowers off that were going to be pollinated to produce the lima beans. That's assuming you have good soil and good seed to start with. And I'm not being dramatic right now. I'm being conservative. So, now that I got that out of my system, when God showed me this famine, I set out to try to farm and to learn about farming and to listen to people who had been farming. And I had preconceived notions. And I've since then farmed through floods and droughts. I've farmed in 100-degree weather. I farmed when it was, here in Texas, this is cold, it was below 10 degrees. I farmed when the water spigots were frozen. You couldn't get water, so I had to carry water from another property to give my chickens and my goats something to drink. I've seen the dirt so dry it was like powder, dust. I've seen it so dry the goats start coughing because the dust is stirred up, and you're like, Lord, you can see the dirt around their nostrils caked, and their eyes got mucus in it because it's so dusty. You wear your headlamp at night and you just see dust flying everywhere, and you really don't see it in the daytime, but at night you could see it with this headlamp, and it's everywhere. I've seen cutter ants. I've seen a woman, a Christian woman, hire another Christian woman to plant a garden. After the last plants were planted, cutter ants came in and leveled it. They ate. It was probably a couple $100 worth of plants that they installed in the garden. Wiped out. My cousin is a mighty man of God. He's a pastor. He's a preacher. He's a father. He's a grandfather. He's gracious. He's giving. His wife is a Proverbs 31 woman. They had an orchard, peach trees. I saw the cutter ants come in the middle of the summer. They come at night. And these cutter ants are invasive. They cut all the leaves off of his peach trees. Do you know how much stress that is for a plant? Those trees can't produce peaches when you cut everything off of them. They were like naked. I've seen him put $10,000 worth of fertilizer, natural fertilizer, chicken manure. Okay? He didn't want to do chemicals. He put $10,000 worth of chicken manure in his hay field. The hay came up just enough where you thought you would cut it. It stopped raining. The grass dried out. The grasshoppers came. We literally, so in a space of this big, you could count like 12 grasshoppers per square foot. This is not a joke. And they were little. You didn't notice them until you paid $10,000 for fertilizer and the grass started growing, and you're like, we might be able to cut that hay next week. And then all of a sudden the grass is diminished, and you're like, what? You go walking out there, and there's these little green things that jump around. So we used to talk about running chickens through there, like lots of chickens, hundreds, to eat all the grasshoppers. And then the chickens would poop and fertilize, and how you could synergistically do this to eliminate pests. I've seen him sow into, he's been doing this his whole life. He sowed into this field, and he didn't get hay until December. You're supposed to get your first cutting probably by June. In Texas, that would be normal. Like, we got our first cutting. You bale the hay, you get it out, you pray to God for some more rain. Maybe you get another cutting August, September. If you get a third cutting of hay before the winter, you're blessed. You done hit the lotto. You get 3 cuttings off of one field in Texas. He didn't get a cutting until December one year. You're not even supposed to be thinking about hay in December, but it just so happened we didn't get a frost until probably right before Christmas. Why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? I could keep going. I have seen a group of Christians. Hold on. One of the most beautiful families, the Ringer family. They're farmers. 4 boys, ages 13, say 16, 19, and 22. They're all in their prime, strapping young bucks, running this farm. They managed this farm. The father helped them, but they managed the employees. I was in the storm. They had these mobile chicken coops that would house 400 chickens at a time that they moved through Randy's pastures. They told Randy, our chickens will eat, bugs and peck the ground and eat some grass, but the net gain you'll have is the manure that they poop, and so you're going to get added nitrogen to your pasture if you let us run our chickens through. So they did a contract to lease his pasture. I was sitting at Randy's gate. All of a sudden, they call it a microburst. It's like the bottom falls out of a thundercloud cell, and all this air hits the ground at once. It's like whoosh, some atmospheric phenomenon. And then the wind goes in every direction. When it hits the ground, and then it has to go somewhere. That wind came out of nowhere. It started blowing 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. I didn't know what was going on. It blew these chicken coops like a tumbleweed across this big hayfield at least 100 yards. I don't even know. It's like a sardine can going boom, 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 boom. I'm ducking down in my car in a low spot, right at the gate. I was kind of in a hole, going, what on earth is this? It blew over. Randy had a chicken trailer like that was portable. It blew his over. They had dead chickens. The equipment got damaged. The ringers came out. There was trees across the road. You couldn't even get. The wind blew all these trees across the road. Unless you knew how to run a chainsaw or had a tractor, you had. The ringers come that night with headlamps and tractors and a whole team of people. They get the trailers back up. They do some modest repairs so that the next day, the chickens that survive, they round them up. They put everything back in. Randy was so caught off guard. His chicken coop laid over forever. It took us. He didn't have a team of people to help him. Now, why am I saying this? There's people who think that the food just grows itself in this country. There's people who want farmland who've never farmed. They feel called to do it. They have expectations. Maybe they're reasonable, maybe they're fantasy. People have ideas. I'm going to buy a farm. I talked to a woman. She moved to Texas from the UK. She had a really sweet accent. She called me because she wanted to buy a guard dog. She said, you know, I need a livestock guardian. I just had coyotes come and kill half of my sheep and goats. And I said, I'm so sorry to hear that. She goes, yeah, they wiped about half of them out. She said, if I had to guess, it was like $2,000 worth of animals I lost in one night. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. She says, I need a guard dog. I said, you need to lock those animals up in a secure pen and do not let them out without your supervision until you get a guard dog. Okay, I'm giving her instructions. She says, well, what about your dogs? I said, I have puppies. They would be food. The coyotes would eat my puppies first. I said, my puppies aren't going to help you. I said, you need a dog that is an adult right now. And you might need two, because one dog can't take on a pack of coyotes. I called my friend. He hooked me up. I found this Pyrenees dog that someone was trying to get rid of in Conroe. By the time I called her back the next day, she said, don't worry about it. They came back and ate them all. Ate all my goats. She has no goats left. I said, oh, Lord. She said, as a little girl, God gave her the desire to have a ranch in Texas. She lived in the UK. She said, as a little girl, God gave me this dream, this desire. And she goes, now I don't know if that was from the Lord, or she says, I don't know what to do. I said, sister, this happens to anyone who doesn't know what they're doing. You know, first, I says, you have to have guardians on a property. If you don't have guard dogs, deer are going to come eat your crops. They're going to eat your peaches or what. You've got to have guard dogs on a farm. That's my opinion. They keep the raccoons away from. They keep the critters away. You need dogs, especially with goats, because goats are small enough to where coyotes, the neighbor's dogs, and bobcats can easily take them down, kill them, and then you're left with the carnage. So I just gave a whole bunch of testimonies of what can go wrong. I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, Debbie Downer. What I'm trying to do is paint a picture. I wish that none of these things happened, but in my experience with everyday people who have a genuine desire to farm, to produce, to things happen. Good things happen. Natural disasters happen, unexpected things. I've seen godly people lose lots of, they had losses on their farm. Let's just put it that way. They incurred huge losses on their farm where you would go, God, you know, why have you forsaken me? You know, I thought I was blessed and highly favored, and you were going to rebuke the devourer, and you can't figure all these things out in real time when you're farming. I can tell you right now, only maybe less than 1% of people farm for a living in the United States. Of those farmers, many of them are producing, no, I'm not going to go into that. I can tell you, it is not easy to feed yourself. So here's the Mikey challenge. Before you get your wealth transfer, before you think your crypto is going to add 100 zeros in your wallet, or lose, you think Sheba's going to drop 3 zeros, BNB is going to drop 7. Before you start dropping zeros and adding zeros, if the Lord has told you there's a famine coming, if the Lord has given you a desire to have land, to have crops, you need to be praying into this. You need to be educating yourself. You can be of one mind and wear many hats. So I got my seed. I can put this hat on, turn seed, and sow seeds into people's lives. Okay? Spiritually speaking. I can produce seeds. I can grow a crop and harvest the seeds so that I can give those literal seeds to other believers so they can plant. So I can have a seed company and invest in crypto at the same time. BNB Ag Supply, BNB Tiger, BNB, whatever. I can wear this hat. Yes, ma'am, I do. I still have 2 female goats for sale. They're half Nubian. You know, they're dairy breeds. They got a little dwarf and Spanish bloodlines, but yes, ma'am. Okay, well, you can't put them on a property like that, a weekend property. You can't just leave them out there. Do you have a guard dog? Oh, okay. Well, you've only got 1 acre. You want to put them in your backyard. Well, you know, I mean, these aren't really pets. These are more of a breeder quality. Oh, okay. You'll call me back? Never hear from him again. Oh, I got a text. Michael, I need 3 gallons of honey. Text back. I don't have any right now, and I probably won't be able to harvest any until June. But if the Yopon blooms early this year, and we get some massive Yopon honey flow, maybe I can supply your needs. Ag Supply, B&B. I can wear that hat. Been wearing it, and it's not easy. Fishing. Redfish. What am I fishing for? Lord, send me a helpmate. Fishing with my prayers. Fishing. Lord, send my wife. Lord, send me a team. Send me a team of men who can come into agreement, who can work together. I'm burned out, Lord. I'm burned out, washed up. I need some help. I don't even feel like farming. I need some land. I'm fishing. I need a property, Lord. I need money. I need my investments to go up. Please reveal to me the wisest investment I can make and how to exit so that I can buy a house and have land so that I can do this without getting kicked off of another property. Fishing. I'm fishing. I'm fishing. Lord. Grimes County Sheriff Department. The land of milk and honey. I don't know if that picks up. The land of milk and honey. That's my home county. The land of milk and honey. We used to have 80 dairies in this county. Milk. Cow's milk. There's none anymore. The last dairy, commercial dairy, shut down this past year. Art Corville hung his hat up. He milked them cows 2 times a day, 7 days a week, for 50-something years. This milk, $5 a gallon, ugh. This man never had a vacation, this farmer. He didn't even know what it was like to be outside at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock, because every time of that day he was hosing down and cleaning his equipment. When he retired, he gave an interview. He said, I've never seen what the sun's like this time of day, because he was always in the shed, in the facility, cleaning everything every day, every day. He didn't have a break. He just shut down. I'm in the land of milk and honey. We still got maybe some people with some cows, but the dairies got put out of business. The land prices have skyrocketed. If you want to start a farm where I live, you better be a multi-millionaire. And I'm not exaggerating. Not just a millionaire. You want a farm in Grimes County. Now, this hat, when this hat was made, it doesn't have a date on it. It's made in Taiwan, so it's at least 20, 30 years old. It's not made in China. When this hat was made, we were the land of milk and honey. We still have one of the oldest beekeeping outfits, but I've been wearing all these different hats. I've been of one mind. Famine. Lord, how am I going to have a farm? I want to grow food. I don't want to watch my mother starve. My neighbor, who's 90 years old, starve. I want to be able to take care of these people. That was a single mind. I mean, it consumed me. So that when I heard about crypto, I didn't want to hear about crypto, but God revealed it to me as a means. That's one reason. I don't know the full extent of why God showed me the famine. I'll never know the full extent until it happens, and I can tell you, it's not a food shortage. It's darkness, black, no electricity. It's people who can barely speak saying they're hungry. That's what God revealed to me. It caused me to be disturbed to the point I was soaking wet with sweat. God revealed it to me in that capacity for a reason. Over a decade goes by. A decade goes by. Finally, leaders in the church are agreeing with what God showed me 10 years ago. Why? Why is this word going forth? God has his purposes. I can't answer all these questions. I can tell you this. If you complain about the price of food now, I challenge anyone, if you complain about the cost of living now, go grow some food and then tell me what you're going to sell it for. And make a living and pay your taxes and work that land. And on the day you feel like I can't do it no more, it's wet and nasty and cold, you have to harvest. You might have to harvest because there's a blizzard coming through. You got to hurry up and harvest. I don't want to. It's the Sabbath. I don't know. There's some complicated questions when it comes to famines. I'm not trying to be prideful, saying this from the wrong spirit. I felt like I was alone in the wilderness for a decade, and then people started coming into agreement with the word. By the time many people could see it after the COVID phenomenon, they called it supply chain disruptions. You had disruptions with fertilizer supplies and other things, parts, tractors, equipment. It's the end of the world. That's nothing. That was nothing. I know what God showed me. What God showed me, I know it was a blessing. I took it with the single-mindedness that you can't shake it off of me. You can't wash it off of me. It was like a stink. Like you got sprayed by a skunk. That you just, everywhere after having this vision, it's like, I can still smell it. This thing sticks. It's like when your dog gets sprayed by a skunk, you're like, when is this smell going to go away? The stink went away when God would reveal to me other promises, blessings. He gave me hope. The burden has been lifting, little by little. He gave me a vision in 2020 that he wanted to graft people into my life, and that he was preparing an army of his people to emerge through this time, in this time. And people call them Josephs. Josephs are going to rise up. The sons of God will be revealed. That boy Easy said, the light shines the brightest in the dark. People, God, he revealed to me that he was preparing people for this. And it was like a ton of bricks. I was like, okay, that's good news, Lord. I'm not the only one. You know, and then the Lord started using YouTube and other, most recently YouTube, to connect me with people who are of the same mind, and they're single-minded. They cannot be shaken out of this. My best friend, Jordan, he knows what I'm talking about. He's the only person I could talk to. We'd stay up all night long talking about our frustrations of people don't see it. I've tried to tell people, you know, he gets kicked off of this property and that property, and I had to move off of this property, and I said, I'm tired of shuffling. Lord, that's why I have so much riding on this crypto emotionally, because it appears to be God's financial tool so that I can obtain the house and the land that I have been desiring for my whole life. My whole life I've wanted to have a wife and kids and a house in the country. For some reason, I never got that. I believe it was, frankly, withheld. No matter what I tried to do. And God's going to do it his way. All that being said, I'm making this video because I hope it adds some balance to the equation. When people talk about wealth transfer, you can have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience to draw from. You can have a wealth of health. You can have wealth of land and community, of brothers and sisters around you that you trust, friends, a wealth of family. Yes, wealth in ones and zeros in your bank account, wealth of gold or silver. That's very important. I've realized how important that is when you live in a position where you're lacking that financial authority to make decisions for your future, to make choices. I want to buy that property. Honey, do you want to live there? Do you like this view? There is a disconnect that we all can experience between the idea of something and the reality. And I'm making this video to say, I know the Lord's revealed these things. I'm single-mindedly, unwaveringly believing the investments he's revealed to me are going to yield a harvest, and that the reason he revealed the famine to me, it deeply bothered me, and it took a lot of wrestling over years. I felt fearful. I felt vulnerable. I felt like the people around me were vulnerable. And it says love casts out all fear. So over the years, God's been casting the fear I had out. Even with respect to obtaining my wife, he's cast a lot of the fears and the doubts out. You know, God showed me I'm going to have a daughter. That cast a lot of fear and uncertainty out, so I could be single-minded and just know I'm supposed to be sowing seeds. I believe that this YouTube video is going to bless someone somehow, even if it's just for entertainment purposes. But yeah, I hope it blesses somebody. It's a lot. It's a lot. There's farming. They call a shepherd. You know, a shepherd tends his flock. So they compare in the Bible managing people, God, the way he shepherds his people, to the way a man shepherds his animals. That's a powerful illustration. But the dedication of a shepherd cannot leave his flock. Abraham had many servants who tended his flocks. He couldn't do it all. It took multiple men to tend his flock. Think about how many men served in Abraham's household. Abraham was the covering. The blessing of his relationship with God covered. I think Brother Diggs said it was like 318 men and their families were under Abraham's employ. People can't fathom that. So there's so much depth to farming. Our society is so perverted. Our expectations have been perverted. So many people have been deceived, distracted, even discouraged and depressed to where they can't see things clearly. But there's nothing more beautiful. I can tell you there is nothing more beautiful in this world than watching a husband and a wife working in a garden together. Or a mother with her children at a farmer's market. And the children have little cottage businesses. There's nothing more beautiful than a family homeschooling their children, bringing them up, teaching them what work is, what life is. There's nothing more beautiful than when four brothers work together on a farm and you see them joking with each other and trying to outwork each other. And it was the rarest. It's one of the rarest pictures God's ever revealed to me was four brothers who worked of one mind, one accord. They worked together. And I've never seen anyone work together the way they did. It was a miracle. If you want to have land and you believe the Lord's leading you into this, pray for wisdom and revelations. Pray for community. I know God's moving a lot of people around. But just know it's a life that you're married to. It's called animal husbandry, like a shepherd. The only way you'll have a day off is if you have a brother or a son or a neighbor or someone to help you. And that's the way society used to be built. Neighbors would help each other. We still do to a degree. But something is broken down. The food system is broken down. Agriculture is broken down. The families have been broken down. Neighbors have been broken down. Politically, ideologically, etc. Even denominationally within the, framework of the Christian. There's people at each other's throats in the church about theology, just to keep it simple, about different theology. We have all these divides, and if you can't agree on these things, How are you going to feed each other and decide who does what? Farming, you need more wisdom. You need more endurance. You need more ability to persevere. You need more grace. You need more humility. You need more help. As a farmer, if that's your desire, then you know. You need wisdom. You need knowledge. You need the power of the Holy Spirit. You need community. I'll leave it at that. It's the other side of the equation. How many hats do you have to wear as a farmer? As a believer, right now, how many hats do you have to wear? How many hats? And still be single-minded in the things that God has shown you and revealed to you. Never shaken. How many hats?